What if events went differently? And the 2008 Dark Knight found himself in Avengers Infinity War. Welcome back, my fellow watchers of the multiverse, to another thrilling what-if scenario. Today we're diving into part 2 of our series where the Dark Knight from the 2008 Christopher Nolan Batman series continues his journey in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Following the events of Captain America Civil War, imagine a universe where Bruce Wayne, with his unparalleled detective skills, combat prowess, and strategic mind, becomes a crucial player in the battle against Thanos. How would Batman's presence influence the Avengers' efforts to prevent the Mad Titan from acquiring all the Infinity Stones? Would his tactical genius and moral resolve help turn the tide? Or would his lone wolf tendencies create new challenges for the team? Let's explore a world where the Batman steps into the heart of Avengers Infinity War and see how this alternate scenario reshapes the fate of the MCU. But before we embark on this exciting journey, if you guys like these types of videos, I would highly consider supporting my work on Patreon and Substack so you get exclusive benefits, you also get tons of exclusive perks, and your support really allows me to create more content and create content for you, and push the boundaries of our imagination. So again, thank you for being a part of this epic journey, and let's dive into the dynamic twists of this fascinating what if together. 2 years after the events of Civil War, Batman again finds himself dragged into the Avengers' mess, when Bruce Banner suddenly returns to Earth and warns the team of an incoming threat. Batman, Iron Man, and the rest of the team must reunite to stop the evil tyrant known as Thanos. Will they be able to defeat Thanos before he collects all 6 of the Infinity Stones? Location, New York, Central Park. Time, 3:54 p.m. Today was picturesque with the sun shining bright and the sky at a beautiful blue. In the Big Apple, Central Park was especially bustling as people were going for a run or riding their bikes through the streets. Doing the latter, Tony Stark and his girlfriend Pepper Potts were among the crowd, slowing down to a walking pace so they could relax a bit. Tony was rambling about a dream he had where he and Pepper had a child, saying they named him after Pepper's uncle Morgan. When he awoke from the dream, Tony thought it was so real that he believed Pepper was expecting. Stark asked her, hoping Pepper really was pregnant, but the woman shook her head and said no. She could see the disappointment in Tony's eyes when she said that, but as she untied the sweater her boyfriend had wrapped around his neck, she pointed to his chest. Specifically, to the artificial heart the arc reactor implanted within his upper body. Pepper then said that if Tony wanted kids, then he would not have done that to himself. Pepper was referring to the upgrades Tony had made to the reactor so that it would have a higher energy output, and it cured him of palladium poisoning. But Pepper only saw it as an excuse for him to continue being Iron Man, which was the reason why they broke up before. She could not stand seeing Tony risk his life, and after the surgery, Pepper was aware that her boyfriend no longer needed the reactor. But despite this, she chooses to support Stark because, as much as she does not want to admit it, the world did need Iron Man. Of course, after a few jokes, Tony was able to get Pepper smiling again, and the two leaned in to share a kiss. But the intimate moment was interrupted when a strange man appeared from a golden portal, saying he required Stark's assistance. The newcomer introduced himself as Dr. Stephen Strange. And yes, that was indeed his real name. He told Tony that not only the world, but the fate of the entire universe was at stake. And shockingly, a familiar face emerged from behind Doctor Strange. Bruce Banner, who disappeared 2 years ago shortly after Ultron's defeat, was now standing before Tony and Pepper as though he never left. The Doctor gave an awkward hi to the couple before suddenly embracing Tony, genuinely happy to see his friend after so long. The hug went on for a while, with Stark patting Banner on his back and Pepper rubbing his arm to comfort the physicist. They were unaware of what Bruce has been through since his disappearance, but the couple knew just from looking at the man that he endured a lot. He did not want to interrupt the trio's reunion, but Doctor Strange had to get everyone's focus back on the task at hand. Speaking of which, Strange said they needed to locate one more hero before he explained what exactly was going on. Well, maybe hero was not the right word for him, but there was no way he would refuse to help, right? Strange moved his hand in a circular motion, and soon another portal opened next to him, and a black blur sped from the gateway, coming to a screeching halt before it crashed into a pedestrian. Now sitting in the middle of the park on his motorcycle was the world's greatest detective, already pondering how he came to be in Central Park in the first place. He had been cruising the streets of Gotham just a second ago. Looking around the park, the vigilante's eyes soon met Tony's, and considering how things went when they last met. Well, Batman was not sure how the CEO of Stark Industries was going to feel about working together now. Location, New York, Sanctum Sanctorum. Time, 4:03 p.m. within Doctor Strange's residence, which was mostly known as the Sanctum Sanctorum. He and his fellow sorcerer Wong used their magic to create holographic images of the universe. Wong then explained how the universe started off as nothing, but when the Big Bang occurred, 6 elemental crystals were sent flying across the cosmos. The stones, the Infinity Stones to be exact, each control a different aspect of existence: space, reality, power, soul, mind, and time. The green stone Time was currently in Strange's possession, hidden within a mystical item called the Eye of Agamotto. And the yellow stone mind was with the android Vision. Tony listened carefully as the sorcerers talked, and Bruce soon cut in, frantic as he spoke about someone named Thanos. Bruce called Thanos a plague, someone who invades planets, and after taking what he wants, he wipes out half of the planet's population. And Thanos was the one responsible for Loki's attack on New York 6 years ago. Batman was not present during the invasion as he was traveling the world and training in all forms of combat. This was before the vigilante had started his crime-fighting career. But he heard about the God of Mischief and how he terrorized the people of the Big Apple with his alien army. If Thanos was behind such a disaster, Tony must have noticed the urgency in Bruce's voice, and he looked to Strange and Wong, asking how long they had before Thanos appeared on Earth. Banner, however, answered the sorcerers saying that they were not sure, but with 2 of the stones already in his possession, power and space, Thanos was already the strongest being in the universe. With all 6 Infinity Stones, the tyrant could destroy life on an unimaginable scale. While the men were talking, Batman leaned against an old cauldron and crossed his arms. But that simple action resulted in him being slapped on his arm. Not by Doctor Strange or Wong. With wide eyes, Batman watched as the Doctor's cloak, yes, the cloak moved around, brushing the cauldron the vigilante had just been leaning on as if he had dirtied it. Batman looked up at Strange, who had frozen when he felt his cloak stir so abruptly, and was now looking back at the caped crusader. The Doctor simply said that Batman was leaning on the cauldron of the cosmos. That was not ideal. Location, New York streets. Time, 4:14 p.m. Using his grapple gun, Batman swung across multiple buildings to dodge the many cars being tossed his way. Just moments ago, a massive ring-shaped spaceship had landed in the middle of the city, causing the citizens to run and scream in panic. When Batman, Tony, Bruce, Strange, and Wong went outside to investigate, they were confronted by two of the aliens from the ship. They called themselves the Children of Thanos. One of those so-called children, a Voldemort wannabe named Ebony Maw, was utilizing his telekinetic abilities to eliminate Batman. Another car was thrown towards the Caped Crusader, and it would have hit its mark if not for a last-minute save by Doctor Strange. The sorcerer quickly created a portal in front of Batman, and the car flew straight into it. Then Strange summoned another portal behind Maw, and the vehicle made its way to the telekinetic, but Maw simply waved his hand, and with his powers, the alien sliced the car in half, the two pieces flying on either side of him. Now his attention was back on Doctor Strange, which was the last thing the heroes wanted. If Strange had the Time Stone, he was a major target. Tony had insisted that the sorcerer stay back, so they would not risk their foes getting their hands on him and the stone. But of course, how could a master of the mystic arts flee from battle? So with Wong looking after Bruce, who for some reason was unable to turn into the Hulk, and Iron Man dealing with the other alien, Batman was left with Strange. And he made it his top priority to make sure the sorcerer did not fall into enemy hands, which was beginning to be a really difficult task now that Black Maw had Strange restrained with an underground cable. The object coiled itself around the sorcerer's body, and did not stop until it was around his neck, tightened to prevent air from entering Strange's lungs. He started to feel lightheaded, and soon his vision went black. As Maw carried the unconscious doctor away on a slab of concrete, Strange's cloak again came to life and managed to get its owner out of the cable, racing through the air to distance itself from Black Maw. When he caught a glance of Strange soaring through the city with his cloak wrapped fully around his form, Batman could not help but sigh. Location? Space. Time? Unknown. Okay, this was not how Batman imagined his day would go. After successfully capturing Doctor Strange, Black Maw dragged the man to his spaceship, but he had unintentionally brought Batman and Spider-Man, who should have been with his classmates on a field trip to the Museum of Modern Art. Any other time, the young superhero would have been ecstatic about being in outer space, but no, not now. The further they went out from Earth's atmosphere, the harder it became to breathe. Batman looked over at Spider-Man and saw the hero suddenly take off his mask. The vigilante immediately turned away to not see Spider-Man's identity. He hoped the hero would do the same if he was in Batman's place. But a second later, Spider-Man told Batman to let go of the ship and allow himself to fall. The vigilante was about to ask if the young hero had lost his sanity, but he did not get the chance. Spider-Man had already released his hold on the spaceship's exterior and was now free falling through the air. Batman soon followed suit, hoping he would be able to catch the young man before he fell into the abyss of space. Just then, something came flying towards Spider-Man at lightning speed, a large projectile that resembled a missile. Batman was so distracted by Spider-Man that he failed to notice another projectile coming at him from his right. Fortunately, the missile was not a missile at all. In fact, the top of the projectile opened and clamped itself onto Batman's back. At first, the Caped Crusader struggled to get the thing off, but he eventually stopped when he realized the machine was not trying to harm him. Plates of armor began to form around Batman's body, starting from his upper body and slowly making its way down to his legs. The last to be covered by the armor was his head, and once it was in place, the visor glowed a light blue. Batman landed on another part of the spaceship beside Spider-Man, the two very much impressed by their new looks. It seems that Iron Man used his nanotech to create suits for Spider-Man and Batman, with the Vigilante's armor being dark blue and silver and the bat symbol on his chest shining white. Although, if he could make one complaint, it would be that the suit did not come with a cape. Maybe once they were back on Earth and things had settled down, Batman would make his own upgrades to the armor to make it more his style. But for the time being, it will do the job. Location: space aboard Black Maw's ship. Time: unknown. After successfully rescuing Doctor Strange from Black Maw by throwing him into the vacuum of space, the heroes took a moment to discuss their next move. Iron Man instantly started arguing with Strange with the Sorcerer, saying they should return to Earth. But Stark protested the idea, and instead believed they should continue the course Maw had previously set. As the two men quarreled like a married couple, Batman took the time to speak with Spider-Man. Honestly, the caped crusader was just as angry that the young hero chose to stay on the ship instead of going home like Iron Man had planned. And Batman made his stance clear as he told Spider-Man that this was not a mission for kids. Of course, the web-slinger said he was not a kid, but Batman knew better. Shortly after their conflict 2 years ago, the Vigilante did his own research on Spider-Man, and it did not take long for him to connect the dots. The person behind the mask of Spider-Man really was a kid compared to the rest of the heroes. But even Batman had to admit, it was inspiring for someone Spider-Man's age to be helping people like he has been doing. He really should be worried about field trips and homework, not alien invasions. Spider-Man insisted that he was needed here with the rest of Earth's heroes, because how can he be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man if there is no neighborhood? The phrase sounded cooler in his head, but when he said those words, Spider-Man thought it sounded stupid, not Batman. Stomping away from Iron Man, Doctor Strange approached Batman and asked if the Vigilante could fly the spaceship home. Tony had outright refused to do so. So, with Batman being the other genius on board, Strange had no choice but to ask. While the caped crusader was not familiar with alien technology, he was sure he could figure out how the ship worked in no time. But Batman voiced his opinion on the situation, and in the end, he had to side with Iron Man. Strange was stunned as he saw the Vigilante as the most rational of the group besides himself. The Doctor was sure Batman would see reason and agree that they should return home. Batman quickly explained his reasoning, saying that they would have the advantage if they arrived on Titan first. The last thing the Tyrant would expect is an ambush. Strange was still a bit hesitant, but he eventually agreed. The Sorcerer told the other heroes to do as they pleased, but if the situation called for it, he would not hesitate to let any of them die to protect the Time Stone. Batman understood, but as he glanced at Spider-Man, who had just been named an Avenger by Iron Man, the caped crusader prayed none of them would perish in this battle. Location: planet Titan. Time: unknown. Upon landing, or rather crash landing on Titan, the heroes were ambushed by what appeared to be a gang of aliens. Doctor Strange was attacked by a hulking man with gray skin and red markings covering it. The alien roared before he charged at Strange, but the Doctor's cloak flew straight towards him and wrapped itself around his head. The cloak then threw its enemy on the ground and proceeded to knock the alien's head onto the broken floor repeatedly. Iron Man was busy fighting a man wearing a partial helmet with glowing red eyes, and they were flying, shooting projectiles at one another. One of the missiles Iron Man blasted caused his helmet wearing opponent to crash into him, and the armored hero quickly threw the alien to the ground. But to his surprise, the alien had planted a small device on Iron Man's chest, and it created a magnetic field which pulled the genius to a large metal structure nearby. He struggled to break free, but it would take some time. Meanwhile, Spider-Man was just getting up from the floor after being knocked out for a short time. But when his eyes opened, the first thing he saw was the last of the alien crew. a woman with big, dark eyes and two antennas like that of an insect. She curiously looked down at Spider-Man, but the young man was trying his best to get away from her, furiously shooting webs at the woman as he did so. One of the webs eventually managed to trap the lady alien, and Spider-Man believed he was safe. Unfortunately, that was not the case. Behind the web slinger, the alien with the helmet was rushing towards him and was ready to strike Spider-Man down. But at the last possible moment, Batman jumped in and kicked the alien dead in his chest, resulting in him colliding into some of the spaceship's wreckage. Spider-Man thanked the vigilante for the save, but Batman quickly commanded the young hero to look after the female alien while he dealt with the alien in the helmet, who he knew was not going to stay down for long. Throwing the debris off his body, the helmet-wearing alien held up his blaster as Batman came rushing in his direction. The caped crusader swiftly threw a batarang to the alien's hand, knocking the weapon out of his grasp. Now standing above his enemy, Batman grabbed the collar of the alien's jacket and hoisted him back to his feet. He then shoved his opponent against the wall and demanded that they tell him where Thanos is. Confused, the alien clicked a button on the side of his helmet, and the headgear instantly vanished. Batman was now able to see his opponent's face clearly, and was shocked to see that the alien was actually a human like himself. The unknown man told Batman that he thought the heroes were working for Thanos, but if Batman was asking him where the tyrant was, then was he wrong? Now the vigilante was befuddled, saying that he and his comrades believed the man and his crew were working for Thanos. The man's confused expression was quickly replaced with one of disgust as he pushed Batman away from him and furiously shook his head. He explained to the heroes that he planned to kill Thanos, especially now that the warlord has kidnapped his girlfriend Gamora. But now, knowing that none of them were allied with Thanos, the man asked who exactly the heroes were. Spider-Man, who acted as though he has been waiting for this moment his entire life, proudly said, "We're the Avengers, man. Location, planet. Titan. Time, unknown." Most of the heroes, which now included a few members of the Guardians of the Galaxy, as they called themselves, were hiding behind some of the wreckage of Black Maw's spaceship. Doctor Strange was patiently waiting in the open, ready for their plan to be executed. But he did not have to wait long, because the main attraction had just arrived on the scene. Stepping out of a swirling blue portal was the big guy himself, Thanos. Strange took a moment to observe the purple giant, and with his muscular form and tall stature, the Doctor could understand why people would find Thanos intimidating. But the sorcerer was not one of those people. Strange and Thanos for a while, the latter mostly talking about Titan, which happened to be his home world. He explained how his planet faced the problem of overpopulation, and how he had offered a solution: genocide, random and fair. A mercy, Thanos calls it, and in turn everyone called him a madman. Thanos then says that the hardest choices required strong wills, and Strange quickly replied by saying that the tyrant would soon discover that their wills are equal to his. Frowning, Thanos noticed how the sorcerer said their wills, and he looked up to see a large piece of the broken ship descending upon him. And behind it was Batman and Iron Man, who thrusted the chunk of metal onto the giant. Iron Man bragged about how easy it was to take Thanos down, but Peter Quill, the leader of the Guardians, responded by saying Tony and Batman had only succeeded in making Thanos angry. The other heroes jumped into the fray to fight against Thanos, with the giant making use of the stones he already had in his grasp. His enemies, however, would not back down, and they eventually managed to restrain Thanos using their own powers. And jumping from one of Doctor Strange's portals from above, Mantis landed on the tyrant's shoulders, and she uses her abilities as an empath to make Thanos fall asleep. Now was the perfect time for them to get the Infinity Gauntlet off the Titan's arm, which housed 5 of the 6 Infinity Stones. Location, planet Titan. Time, unknown. How could everything has gone so wrong? They almost had it. They almost won. Now, here they were on this dying planet, barely able to stand while Thanos was back on Earth to take the last Infinity Stone. Mantis could feel something big was happening, but she could figure out what. Her body slowly dissipated into nothing but dust. Drax soon joined her while calling out to Quill, confused as to what was happening. Watching his friends disappear one by one, Quill could feel that his time was coming too, and as his body began to break down, all he could do was sigh in defeat. Batman watched on in horror, knowing that Thanos had taken the last stone and had done what he sought out to do: kill half of the universe's population. Feeling a hand on his shoulder, Batman turned to see Spider-Man leaning against him, claiming that he was feeling unwell. The vigilante held onto the hero's waist and helped him sit on the ground to rest. But the web-slinger's pain was not simply from physical injuries. Batman noticed the young man's arm beginning to turn to dust like the others, and the caped crusader's heart instantly filled with despair. Not him, not the kid. Iron Man was by Spider-Man's side in a second, taking his helmet off as he knelt on the ground beside the kid. Stark repeatedly told Spider-Man that he was going to be okay, but they both knew that was not true. And their thoughts were proven correct as Spider-Man dissolved into dust like the others before him. Would he disappear too? Batman could not help but think about that. He was not afraid of death, but this was insanity. If he was fated to leave this world now, then Batman only prayed that Alfred would not be too upset with his passing. And that is going to be it for What If the Dark Knight found himself in Avengers Infinity War, and having the Dark Knight play a crucial role in the events of the MCU. Now, what did you think of this Marvel and DC mashup video? Would you guys like to see more? And are you guys ready for part 3 of Christopher Nolan's Batman being in the MCU timeline? Let me know what you guys thought of the video, and if you guys do enjoy these types of videos and the type of content that I'm doing here on the channel, I would highly recommend that you guys subscribe, like, share, as turning on that big red button really means a lot to me. It really goes a long way to the channel and helps support me even further and the growth and everything about the Miss Lepart channel. And again, I would highly recommend that if you guys are interested in even more exciting content, check out the Patreon and check out the Substack. But you guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video. Take care and have a wonderful day. Peace out.